A few hours ago, I got 10 minutes of Bob Carr's precious time. Anyone who got a glimpse or was able to listen to question time in the Senate today would already know that Bob Carr adds an X factor, that special something that Labor has been lacking for a long, long time. He is exciting and he's all class. He just oozes class from every pore. Bob Carr's a star. And one thing's for sure, life's going to be much more interesting for Tony Abbott now that Bob Carr's around. Just have a look at this quick 10 minutes from Australia's new Foreign Minister. All right, Bob Carr, welcome to the program. Now, I've known you for 40 years. It's a long time. You're never very good when you're faking it. And now, under the Westminster system, you're the Foreign Minister. You're going to have to get up and defend a war you don't like at all. And I'm speaking of the war in Afghanistan. Now, tell me, how do you go, having said it's not achieving anything, now you have to prove to me it is?
Well, we're in transition. That means we're setting up the circumstances to get out. Setting up the circumstances when the Afghans can do what they're going to have to do eventually, and that is take over their protection. And we're doing it in absolute coordination with the Americans and the British and all the other partners, providing the army, and gradually moving our people to civilian and advice and training and mentoring roles. We've got to do it, Graham, because there will be a slaughter of innocent people if we pull out prematurely, and the Taliban does what totalitarian Islamicists have done in Afghanistan in the past. But there is even a hope that they can be brought into a negotiated outcome.
Yeah, but aren't we in danger of being thrown out? I mean, just look at the last 3 weeks. You had the Quran burning, which is absolute disaster, has got a nation absolutely infuriated, and then to top it off, you get some maniac goes in and starts shooting children. I mean, how do you get around that? They're not very easy things to just dismiss, put under the carpet or anything else. The Afghans are furious.
No, they can't be dismissed. Of course they're serious. The burning of the Quran is just a shocking message to the whole Islamic world. That sort of thing tilts us towards those people who believe in what's called a clash of civilizations. The world of Islam against the world of Christianity. That is awful. That's an awful prospect for the planet. We want a coexistence. We want an overlap. We want cooperation between civilizations. And of course, the tragic shooting of 16 people, an atrocity that I suppose can only be understood in terms of a 10-year war that has seen exhaustion all round. But these are horrid events. Let me say something on the other side of the ledger, however. We've got, in 2001, there might have been 1 million Afghan youngsters going to school. Now there are 4 million going to school. There were virtually no girls going to school in 2001. Now you've got 2 million young women in Afghanistan, girls and young women, in the education system. Now these are gains, yes, even under the Karzai government, that are occurring because we and our friends are there trying to nurture them and lead them to a position post-2014 when they can do all the protection, all the fighting themselves.
Well, look, I wish everyone well in that endeavour, but I just have this sneaking suspicion that when we move out, the Taliban will move in. It will all have been a dramatic waste, not just of money, but of lives and all that emotional exercise that's been going on for so long. But I'll have to move on because we are a little short of time. What about the Kevin Rudd effort for getting a seat on the Security Council? When I look at the Security Council, particularly over the last 2 months, it just looks so impotent. Russia just says no, the Chinese play ball with them, and so Assad is able to continue to massacre the Syrian people basically without anyone lifting a finger.
All the more reason for getting Australia there. We'd be there for 2 years. We're entitled to be there because of our contribution to, for example, Afghanistan, to East Timor. We're a good global citizen. Look at Kevin Rudd's role in helping mobilise the world about Libya. Look at his role in getting into Burma. He was the first foreign minister to get a visa into Burma. And you've got Burma releasing hundreds of political prisoners, giving workers the right to strike and other labour rights. Tremendous movement in a part of the world which we thought was going to be locked into military dictatorship forever. Aung San Suu Kyi, previously under house arrest, is out fighting an election, April 1, putting a case to the people. Now that's tremendous progress. We're part of it, a good global citizen, a creative middle power. We're entitled to say to the world, you ought to consider us for a seat on the Security Council. It's not since the mid-'80s have we been there. I think we've got a very strong case.
But when we get there, what do we say to Russia about something like Syria? What can you say? Because they are determined that nothing will happen.
Yeah, well, I had something to say about this in the Senate today. It was my first the first Senate question time in which I could say something as Foreign Minister, and I chose to speak about Syria and the injustice of Russia blocking the needed action, the action that William Hague, the UK Foreign Secretary, and Hillary Clinton, the US Foreign Secretary, with both of whom I've spoken about this. They want the action. They speak very eloquently in favour of it. But as your listeners probably know, we've got a UN structure that reflects the balance of power in the immediate post-war world, and the great powers insisted on having a veto. The permanent members of the Security Council have got a veto. UN reform is a very difficult task, probably when it comes to the veto exercised by the so-called great powers, an impossibly difficult task. As Abraham Lincoln said, Graham, we work with the tools we have.
Yeah, and unfortunately they're not terrific tools. What about our own backyard? Now I look at New Guinea. That's next door. In fact, you can almost walk there at low tide from the islands up past Thursday Island. So tell me, what are we going to do about that? A total mess, almost no rule of law, corruption rife, strife between the Parliament, the Chief Justice, the like of which you can't even believe, a Prime Minister who's elected and won't go away, and a Prime Minister who's got himself the numbers in the Parliament who's retaining power. What can we do to try and straighten out even some of that mess?
Okay, the immediate priority is to see that the election is held mid-year, writs to be returned by August 6. If that happens, it means Papua New Guinea keeping that 5-year term. It means no delay in the election. It is absolutely vital that Papua New Guinea, that the government of Prime Minister O'Neill commit unequivocally to this election. Without it, you've got a shocking model of misgovernance that is there planted in the Pacific. You've got Australia placed in a position where we'd have no alternative but to organise the world to condemn and isolate Papua New Guinea. We'd be in a position of having to consider sanctions. So I take this opportunity to urge the government to see that those elections take place, keeping Papua New Guinea in the cycle of 5-yearly elections, the people determining the government they have. It's rough and ready, but we're going to see that there are 30 observers moved around the country by helicopter, with the New Zealanders providing 3 helicopters to supplement our own. 30 observers that we're placing in the country to see that the electoral rolls are right, that the computer system, the information technology system is correct, that you've got electoral officers who are properly trained. So that's the key. That is the immediate decision on Papua New Guinea. The government to determine, as we're urging them to determine, that those elections go ahead as required.
Let's hope they do. I've got to interrupt there because we're running out of time. Just looking at you yesterday, I don't think, I'd have to say to you, to be honest, that the cheapskate hypnotist line was one of your best. I think you've had better ones. But I note, I've been listening to some of the talkback around Sydney in the last few days, there's a suggestion that you're going to become the government's attack dog. That's never really been the sort of role you would want.
No.
Surely you're not going to do that.
No, that's absolutely not the case. Tony Abbott keeps repeating 3 slogans. They're his incantations. He never gives up. He's got slogans instead of policies. And that's the message I wanted to get out there. And I think people are ready to hear it. But no, I'm not interested in being an attack dog. I won't have time to do that. I'm honoured to be carrying out the job of representing Australia and pursuing its interests.
And what about all of that? You're off to see Hillary Clinton. I mean, one thing I know about you do love America. You do love travelling there. Are we going to have any real difference? Now, you've got about 10 seconds to answer me. Under Kevin Rudd, we were moving towards America and we were putting China a little bit at bay. What are we going to do now?
Well, Hillary Clinton said to me last night, as we recalled her visit with her husband to Sydney in 1996, where I hosted them on the harbour, she said, our relations have never been better. They are running very, very strongly indeed. That's a positive message. What
about the Chinese, though? 10 seconds on China.
No, we don't have to choose. This is not a game where we've got to make a choice between our economic relationship and our other interests with China and our core strategic cornerstone interest with the United States and all that goes with that.
Yeah, but we have so much of our economic future tied to China. I know that it's not a matter of a choice, but the way you maintain those relationships is going to be, I think, the most difficult part of your job. Bob, I know you've had a very busy time. Thanks very much for coming on this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Graham. Thank you.